Welcome to a place beyond the sands of time, to a realm where golden water flows from enchanted springs, where birds speak with wisdom and trees sing with the voice of the stars. Tonight, we enter the mystical world of Arabian Nights. Before we begin our tale, I invite you to take just a moment. Close your eyes gently if you wish. Take a slow, deep breath in and let it go. Let the weight of your day melt away. Let your shoulders relax and feel the warmth of a desert breeze gently wrap around you. As you settle in, let your imagination open like the petals of a midnight flower. You're about to hear the story of a prince's impossible quest, a journey for a talking bird, a singing tree, and water so golden, even kings would trade empires to taste it. In this tale, courage will be tested, hearts will be stirred, and wonder will grow with every breath. Let the world around you fade. Let this story be your guide. You're safe here. You're welcome here. This is Pajama Pedia, and our story begins now. In the days when magic flowed like rivers through the world, when wishes took wing on desert winds, there lived a sultan whose heart harbored both love and terrible doubt. Long ago, in the magnificent city of Persia, there ruled a sultan, a man of great power, yet greater loneliness. His palace gleamed like captured starlight. His gardens bloomed with roses that sang to the moon. But his heart remained as empty as the vast desert that stretched beyond his kingdom's borders. One evening, as the sun painted the sky in shades of amber and gold, the sultan walked through the marketplace, disguised as a common merchant. The air thrummed with life, vendors calling their wares, children laughing like silver bells, the rich aroma of spices dancing on the breeze. But it was not the sights or sounds that stopped him. It was a voice. From a humble dwelling came the most beautiful voice he had ever heard, weaving through the twilight like liquid music. "If I were to marry the sultan," the voice said, "sweet as honey, clear as mountain springs, I would bear him children, more beautiful than the stars themselves." The sultan's heart, it leaped like a bird suddenly freed from its cage. He pressed closer to the window, his breath catching in his throat. There, in the soft glow of oil lamps, sat the most radiant woman his eyes had ever beheld. Her name, he would learn, was Princess Parizade, though she knew not her royal blood. "And I," said another voice, equally melodious, "would weave cloth so fine, so magnificent, that it would make the sultan the envy of every ruler from here to the farthest corners of the earth." "While I," spoke a third voice, tinged with gentle sadness, "would cook meals so delicious that the sultan would forget every sorrow, every burden of his crown." These were the three sisters, Parizad the youngest and most beautiful, and her elder siblings, each gifted with their own special talents. The Sultan, his heart now burning with a fire he had never known, made his decision, a decision that would change the course of destiny itself. Within a fortnight, the palace bells rang out across the kingdom. The Sultan had chosen his bride. Princess Parizad, overwhelmed by this twist of fate, found herself swept into a world of silk and gold, of servants who bowed like flowers before the wind, of love so pure it made her heart sing. But love, love, sometimes casts shadows where it shines brightest. The two elder sisters, now dwelling in the palace as honored guests, watched their youngest sister's happiness with hearts growing darker by the day. Jealousy, that most poisonous of serpents, coiled around their hearts, whispering terrible things. "Why should she have everything?" they whispered to each other in the dark corridors of the night. "Why should she be queen while we remain merely sisters?" When Princess Parizad's time came, when she was great with child, glowing like the moon at its fullest, the sisters saw their chance. They went to the Sultan with faces masked in false concern, their voices dripping with honeyed poison. "O great Sultan," they said, their eyes downcast as if in sorrow, We fear our sister practices dark magic. How else could she have captured your heart so completely? And the child she carries, surely no human child could make a mother glow with such unnatural light. The Sultan's heart, it wavered like a candle flame in the wind. Doubt, that terrible destroyer of love, began to seep into his soul. When the first child was born, a prince more beautiful than the dawn, with eyes like sapphires and a smile that could melt stone, the sisters struck. In the chaos of birth, they stole the child away, replaced him with a puppy, and whispered to the Sultan, "See, we warned you of her unnatural ways." The Sultan's roar of anguish shook the very foundations of the palace. His beloved wife, his beautiful Parizad, he could not bear to look upon her face, but neither could he bear to harm her, for love, even wounded love, dies hard. The stolen prince was placed in a basket, sent floating down the river like Moses of old, while the Sultan banished his wife to the palace gardens, there to live in sorrow and disgrace. But fate, fate has ways of weaving patterns too complex for mortal eyes to see. The basket, carrying the infant prince, was found by the keeper of the Sultan's gardens, a kind man whose heart was as fertile as the soil he tended. He and his wife, childless for many years, received this gift from heaven with tears of joy streaming down their faces. "We shall call him Prince Bahman," they whispered, "for he came to us like a blessing from the spring." The same cruel fate befell the second child, a princess even more beautiful than her brother, if such a thing were possible, and the third, another prince whose beauty outshone the stars. Each time, the wicked sisters replaced the newborn with an animal, each time spreading their poison in the Sultan's ear. "2 puppies and a kitten," they declared with mock horror. "Surely this proves her dark nature." And so Prince Bahman gained 2 siblings, Princess Parizade, named for the mother they would never know, and Prince Perviz. The three children grew in the garden keeper's humble home, but there was something about them that set them apart from mortal children. They grew in wisdom as swiftly as flowers bloom in spring. They spoke with voices like music, moved with grace like dancers, and their eyes held depths that seemed to contain all the mysteries of the world. The garden keeper and his wife knew deep in their hearts that these were no ordinary children. But they loved them as their own, raising them with tenderness and care, watching in wonder as they blossomed into young people of extraordinary beauty and virtue. Years passed like pages turning in the book of time. The three siblings grew into magnificent young adults, beloved by all who knew them. But their hearts yearned for something they could not name, something that called to them like a distant song. One day, as Princess Parizade, now 18 and radiant as the morning star, walked in the garden with her brothers, an old dervish appeared at their gate. His beard was white as fresh snow, his eyes twinkled like captured starlight, and about him hung an aura of ancient wisdom. "Kind children," he said, his voice like wind through autumn leaves, "might an old traveler trouble you for a cup of water?" Princess Parizade, her heart as generous as it was beautiful, immediately brought him not just water, but dates and honey cakes, seating him in the shade of their favorite pomegranate tree. The dervish ate with the grateful manner of one who has known hunger, but his eyes studied the three siblings with an intensity that made the air shimmer. Finally, he spoke. "Your garden is beautiful, dear children, but it lacks three things that would make it the most wondrous place in all the world." "What things?" asked Prince Bahman, his curiosity kindled like flame to dry wood. The dervish leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper that somehow filled the entire garden. "The talking bird, whose voice can answer any question ever asked by mortal lips. The singing tree, whose melodies can heal any wound of body or heart. And the golden water, a single drop of which can bring the dead back to life." The three siblings felt their hearts stop, then begin to beat with a rhythm they had never known, the rhythm of destiny calling. "Where?" Princess Parazade's voice was barely a breath. "Where might one find such wonders?" The dervish's eyes grew distant, as if he were seeing across vast deserts and mountain ranges. Beyond the city, beyond the desert, beyond the mountains that touch the sky, there stands a place where the earth meets heaven. But the path, he paused, his face growing grave. The path is fraught with perils that have turned many brave souls to stone. He reached into his robes and drew forth a small crystal ball that caught the light like a captured rainbow. "This will guide you true. But beware, once you begin this quest, you must not look back. No matter what voices call to you, no matter what sorrows try to claim your heart. For if you turn, you will become stone, and all hope will be lost." That night, the three siblings could not sleep. They walked in their garden under stars that seemed to pulse with new meaning, their hearts filled with longing so intense it was almost pain. "We must go," Prince Bahman said finally, his voice heavy with determination. "I feel it in my very bones. This is why we were born, why we have always felt different, always yearned for something beyond the horizon." "But the danger?" Princess Parazade's voice trembled like a harp string. "What if we lose each other? What if—" Prince Perviz took his sister's hands in his own. "Some things are worth any risk, dear sister, and I believe we were meant for this quest." They decided that Prince Bahman, as the eldest, would go first. If he did not return within 2 months, Prince Perviz would follow, and if he too failed, Princess Parizade would make the journey, though her brothers' hearts ached at the thought. As dawn painted the sky in shades of rose and gold, Prince Bahman set forth. The crystal ball glowed in his palm, warm as a beating heart, guiding him beyond the city walls, beyond the familiar paths, into lands that seemed touched by magic itself. For days he traveled, through forests where the trees whispered secrets in languages older than time, across deserts where the sand sang lullabies to the wind, over mountains where eagles soared so high they seemed to dance with the clouds. Finally, the crystal ball led him to a narrow pass between 2 towering cliffs. The air here thrummed with power and danger. As he entered the pass, he saw them, hundreds upon hundreds of stone figures lining the path, men and women, young and old, all frozen in expressions of terror and despair. Prince Bahman's heart hammered against his ribs like a caged bird, but he pressed on, the crystal ball's warm glow his only comfort. He had walked perhaps half the length of the terrible corridor when the voices began. "Bahman!" The voice was soft, familiar, beloved. "My son, why have you abandoned me?" It was his adoptive mother's voice, filled with such sorrow that his heart nearly shattered. But he remembered the dervish's warning and pressed on, tears streaming down his face. "Brother," now it was Parazade's voice, desperate, terrified. "Help me. I'm trapped. I'm dying. Please look back." The agony in her voice was unbearable. Every instinct screamed at him to turn, to save his beloved sister. His steps faltered, slowed, stopped. "I can't," he whispered. "I can't bear it." And he turned. The moment his eyes looked back, stone crept up from his feet like frost on a window. In seconds, Prince Bahman joined the tragic gallery of those who had failed before him, his face frozen in an expression of love and loss. 2 months passed like years. Princess Parizade paced their garden like a caged lioness, her heart heavy with foreboding. When Prince Bahman did not return, Prince Perviz could no longer be restrained. "I must go," he declared, his young face set with determination that was heartbreaking in its nobility. "Bahman may be in trouble. He may need me." Through her tears, Princess Parizade gave him her blessing, though her heart felt as if it were being torn in two. "Come back to me," she whispered as he disappeared into the morning mist. "Both of you, Please come back to me." Prince Perviz followed the same path as his brother, his heart full of hope and determination. He too saw the stone figures in the terrible pass. He too heard the voices, his mother weeping, his sister screaming, and now his brother's voice, desperate and pleading. "Pervis, thank God you've come. I'm trapped beneath a great stone. I can't move. Please, help me." The voice came from behind him. So real, so full of pain that Prince Pervis's resolve crumbled like sand before the tide. Love conquered caution, and he turned. Stone claimed another victim. Another 2 months crawled by. Princess Parizade waited, her heart breaking a little more each day. She knew, with the terrible certainty that comes from love, that her brothers were not coming home. But she was not just any princess. She was a daughter of destiny, born to greatness, marked by fate itself. On the morning when hope seemed lost forever, she made her decision. She had always been the wisest of the three, the most thoughtful, the most aware of the deeper currents that flowed beneath the surface of things. As she prepared for her journey, she devised a plan. Before entering the terrible pass, she tore strips of silk from her dress and wound them tightly around her ears, then filled her ears with soft wax until the world became muffled and distant. She could barely hear her own heartbeat, much less any voices that might call to her. "Love," she whispered to the wind. "Sometimes love means having the courage not to listen." Through the pass she walked, past the stone figures, and yes, there near the end, she saw them. Her beloved brothers, their faces frozen in expressions of noble sacrifice. Tears streamed down her cheeks, but she did not stop, did not turn, did not let grief overwhelm purpose. Beyond the pass, the world opened into a valley so beautiful it took her breath away. Crystal streams sang as they flowed. Flowers bloomed in colors that had no names, and the very air shimmered with magic. At the valley's heart stood the most magnificent tree she had ever seen. Its leaves were silver, its trunk gold, and its branches were heavy with fruit that glowed like captured stars. This was the singing tree, and its voice was like all the most beautiful music ever written, played at once. Beside the tree bubbled a spring of water so pure, so golden, that it seemed to be made of liquid sunlight, and perched in the highest branches of the tree, the talking bird. It was unlike any bird she had ever imagined. Its feathers shimmered with every color of the rainbow. Its eyes held wisdom older than mountains. And when it spoke, its voice was like silver bells on the wind. "Welcome, Princess Parizade," the bird said, and she felt her heart skip. It knew her name. "You have succeeded where many have failed. You have shown that love sometimes requires the courage to look forward rather than back." "Beautiful bird," Princess Parizade said, her voice trembling with hope and desperation. "I have come for the three wonders, but not for myself alone. I have come to save my brothers who were turned to stone in the pass." The bird's laugh was like water over silver stones. "Child of destiny, your heart is pure and your purpose true. Take what you came for: a branch from the singing tree, a vial of the golden water, and, if you wish it, I will come with you willingly." "You would come with me?" she gasped. "I have been waiting for you, Princess, waiting for someone worthy of the gift I carry, the power to undo the curse of the stone pass, to restore life to those who were lost to love's desperate calling." With trembling hands, Princess Parizade filled a crystal vial with the golden water. It was warm like liquid sunlight and hummed with power. She broke a branch from the singing tree, and immediately its music filled her heart with joy so pure she almost wept. The talking bird perched on her shoulder, its claws gentle as silk. "Now," it said, "let us return to the pass. But first, take this." It plucked a single golden feather from its breast. "Scatter drops of the golden water on each stone figure, and they will live again. But use the feather to sprinkle water only on those you truly wish to save, for this power works but once." Back through the terrible pass, Princess Parizade walked, but now she moved like an angel of mercy. The golden water glowed in its vial, the singing tree's branch filled the air with melodies of hope, and the talking bird whispered encouragement in her ear. She began with her brothers, her beloved Bahman and Perviz. As the golden drops touched their stone forms, cracks appeared like lightning across marble. Light poured from the cracks, growing brighter and brighter until... "Parizade!" Prince Bahman's voice, warm and alive and filled with wonder. "Sister, how did you... Later!" She laughed through her tears, embracing both brothers as if she would never let them go. "First, we have work to do." Together, the three siblings moved through the pass, sprinkling golden water on every stone figure. One by one, they came to life. Men and women who had been trapped for years, decades, some for centuries. Each one fell to their knees in gratitude, their faces shining with the joy of returned life. "How can we ever repay you?" they asked. "Live," Princess Parizade said simply. "Live and love, and remember that sometimes the greatest courage is in not looking back." The journey home was like a celebration. The singing tree's branch filled the air with melodies that made flowers bloom in their footsteps. The golden water healed every illness they encountered, mended every broken heart they met. And the talking bird shared wisdom and stories that made the miles pass like minutes. When they reached their garden, their adoptive parents wept with joy to see all three children returned safely. But the talking bird, perched now in the pomegranate tree, spoke words that changed everything. "The time has come for truth, dear children. You are not the gardener's children, though he has loved you as his own. You are the children of Princess Parizade, who suffers still in a sultan's palace, and the sultan himself." The three siblings felt the world tilt beneath their feet. But our mother died in childbirth," Prince Bahman whispered. "Your mother lives," the bird said gently, "but in sorrow, banished by a father who was deceived by jealous hearts. The time has come to heal this ancient wound, to reunite a family torn apart by lies." And so the bird told them the whole story, how their aunt's jealousy had poisoned their father's heart, how their mother had been cast out, how they had been abandoned to die, but saved by love. "What must we do?" Princess Parizade asked, her heart breaking for the mother she had never known. "Tomorrow," the bird said, The Sultan will pass by this garden on his way to hunt. You must invite him in, show him the wonders you have brought back, and let truth work its magic." The next morning dawned clear and bright, filled with the promise of revelation. The three siblings prepared their garden with loving care, the singing tree's branch planted where its melodies would enchant all who heard, the golden water creating a fountain that sparkled like captured starlight, and the talking bird perched where its wisdom could reach every corner of the space. When the Sultan's hunting party passed by, the music from the singing tree was so beautiful, so haunting, that the entire procession stopped as if frozen by magic. "What is that sound?" the Sultan whispered, his hand pressed to his heart. For the music stirred something in him, memories of love, of loss, of a happiness he had thrown away in a moment of terrible doubt. Prince Bahman approached the royal party with the grace of one born to nobility. "Great Sultan, would you honor our humble garden with your presence? We have wonders here that might please your majesty." Something about the young man's bearing, his noble features, made the Sultan's heart skip. He dismounted and followed, as if drawn by invisible threads of fate. In the garden, wonders awaited that made the Sultan gasp in amazement. The singing tree's melodies seemed to heal wounds he had carried for 20 years. The golden water's fountain sparkled with such purity that it made his eyes water with unshed tears. But it was the talking bird that spoke the words that shattered his world. "Great Sultan," the bird said, its voice carrying the weight of absolute truth. "Behold your children, the son and daughter you cast away, believing lies whispered by jealous hearts. The princes and princess you have mourned without knowing you mourned them." The Sultan staggered as if struck by lightning. He truly looked at the three young people before him and saw himself. His eyes, his nobility, his bearing, but more than that, he saw her, his beloved Padizadeh, the wife he had wronged so terribly. "It cannot be," he whispered, tears streaming down his face. They were replaced with animals by those who should have protected them," the bird said relentlessly. "Your children were cast into the river to die, but fate and love preserved them. Your wife was innocent, great Sultan. She has lived these 20 years in shame for crimes she never committed." The Sultan's roar of anguish shook the very heavens. 20 years of grief, of loss, of terrible guilt crashed over him like a tsunami. He fell to his knees before his children, this man who knelt to no one and wept as if his heart would break. "Forgive me," he sobbed. "Oh, my children, forgive me. I have wronged you all beyond measure. I have destroyed our family with my weakness, my willingness to believe poison over love." Princess Parizad, his daughter, his precious daughter, knelt beside him and took his hands in hers. "Father," she said, and the word was like music, like healing, like coming home. "We forgive you. Love forgives all, heals all, conquers all. But now you must make things right." The Sultan's justice was swift and terrible. The two evil sisters, confronted with their crimes, confessed everything. Their jealousy, their lies, their cruel theft of innocent children. They were banished from the kingdom forever, sent into the desert with nothing but the clothes on their backs. But the reunion was pure magic. When the Sultan brought his children to the palace gardens where their mother had lived in exile for 20 years, Princess Parizade the Elder, worn by sorrow but still beautiful, still noble, looked up from her weaving and saw her children, her babies, grown into magnificent adults, their faces shining with love and forgiveness. The embrace that followed was so full of joy, of love, of healing, that the very flowers in the garden bloomed brighter, the fountains sang sweeter, and the stars themselves seemed to dance in celebration. In the days that followed, the three wonders transformed not just the royal family, but the entire kingdom. The singing tree, planted in the center of the palace gardens, filled the air with melodies so beautiful that sorrow fled like shadows before the dawn. Its music healed broken hearts, mended fractured relationships, and brought peace to troubled souls throughout the realm. The golden water, flowing in fountains throughout the palace and city, brought healing to the sick, hope to the despairing, and prosperity to the land. Crops grew greener, flowers bloomed brighter, and children laughed with joy that bubbled up from springs deeper than wells. And the talking bird became the kingdom's greatest treasure, offering wisdom to anyone who sought it, answering questions that had puzzled philosophers for centuries, and sharing stories that taught compassion, courage, and love. But perhaps the greatest wonder of all was the transformation in the royal family itself. The Sultan, his heart healed of its ancient wound, became a ruler renowned for his justice and mercy. Princess Parizade the Elder, restored to her rightful place as queen, filled the palace with warmth and grace. And the three children, Prince Bahman, Prince Perviz, and Princess Parizade the Younger, grew into leaders beloved by all, their wisdom and kindness touching every corner of the kingdom. Years passed, the kingdom prospered, and the story of the three wonders was told and retold, each telling adding new layers of meaning, new depths of understanding. The gardener and his wife, who had raised the royal children with such love, were honored above all others in the kingdom, given palaces of their own, and recognized as the truest parents a child could ask for, those who love not because they must, but because they choose to. The talking bird, when asked by young listeners what the story meant, would tilt its rainbow head thoughtfully and say, "Every heart contains its own three wonders, dear children. The talking bird of wisdom, the voice that speaks truth when the world is full of lies, the singing tree of love, the melody that heals what seems broken beyond repair, and the golden water of forgiveness, the magic that can bring the dead back to life, restore what was lost, and make all things new." Also, but remember, the bird would add, its voice growing soft and serious, these wonders are not won easily. They require courage to face your fears, wisdom to see past deception, and above all, love strong enough to look forward when everything in you wants to look back. For in the end, the greatest magic is not in talking birds or singing trees or golden water. The greatest magic is in hearts brave enough to love, strong enough to forgive, and wise enough to know that sometimes the most precious treasures are the ones we already have, waiting to be discovered in the gardens of our own souls. And so they lived, not just happily ever after, but wisely, lovingly, and with hearts full of wonder for all the magic that surrounds us, if only we have eyes to see, ears to hear, and souls brave enough to seek. Thus ends the tale of the talking bird, the singing tree, and the golden water, a story of love lost and found, of truth triumphant over lies, and of the magic that lives in every heart brave enough to seek it. And so, the quest is complete. The golden water flows once more, the tree sings its ancient song, and the bird whispers truth to those who dare to listen. Perhaps tonight's tale reminded you that even in a world filled with challenges, determination, kindness, and belief can light the darkest path. If you felt a moment of peace or found yourself smiling in wonder, know that you are not alone. Stories like this live on because dreamers like you keep them alive. If you'd like to hear more timeless tales from Arabian Nights and beyond, subscribe to Pajama Pedia and join our circle of quiet hearts and curious minds. Like this video to support the magic of storytelling and share it with someone who could use a moment of calm. Until next time, sleep gently, dream deeply, and remember, the greatest journeys often begin with a single story. Good night.